I preached about holiness every Sunday, but when the church doors closed, I fought demons that no one could see. I stood on the altar teaching others how to live free, while being the most bound man in that room. This is my confession. And if you've ever felt trapped between who you show to the world and who you really are, stay here, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. This is not just about pornography. It's about the prison of living a double life. It's about preaching freedom while being a slave. It's about standing on the altar with a Bible in one hand and a hidden addiction in the other. My story is the story of many who carry the weight of being spiritual leaders while secretly drowning in desires they cannot confess to anyone. My name is Matthews. I'm 39 years old. I was a pastor for over 14 years, a voice in the pulpit, a counselor to broken people, a guide for young men, a defender of holiness. But behind closed doors, I was a prisoner, a slave, a hypocrite. I wasn't addicted to drugs. I wasn't out drinking or partying. My chains were digital. My chains were pixels. My chains were the dark corners of the internet, the conversations no one knew about, the fantasies that consumed me. The moment I took off the pastor's mask, God didn't start when I became a pastor. It started way before. At 12 years old, I stumbled across a magazine hidden under my cousin's bed. That image burned into my mind like a curse. From that day forward, my innocence was gone. And as much as I prayed, as much as I fasted, it never left. I got baptized, still struggled. Became a youth leader, still struggled. Became a pastor, married, had kids. Still, it followed me. On Sundays, I preached about holiness. I warned men about the dangers of lust. I told couples how pornography was destroying their marriages. And then I'd go home, lock the door, open my laptop, and do the very thing I told everyone not to do. The weight of that shame is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. You feel fake. You feel broken. You look in the mirror wearing a suit and tie, but all you see is a man unworthy of even touching a Bible. I told myself, when I get married, this will stop. But marriage didn't cure me. Love didn't cure me. Ministry didn't cure me. The applause didn't cure me. The laying on of hands didn't cure me. The more the church grew, the more my sin grew in silence. I was feeding two monsters. One was the image of the holy man I showed the world. The other was the beast inside. But I fed every night in secret. This is not just about lust. It's about identity. About the fear of being seen for who you really are. About the crushing pressure of being the man of God everyone admires, while fighting the devil in the mirror every day. And eventually, either you confess, or your secret confesses for you. It started innocent. Or at least that's what I told myself. I was around 12 when it happened. A random magazine, a single image, something that felt like a punch to my chest, confusing, wrong, but weirdly electrifying. I remember staring at it, frozen. Part of me knew it was wrong, but another part felt something awaken, something that never went back to sleep. I went to church that same Sunday, acting normal, worshiping, smiling. No one knew that a war had just begun inside of me. A war that would last for decades. A war that I would lose over and over. Again, I convinced myself it was just curiosity, that it would pass, but it didn't. It grew, from magazines to websites, to chat rooms, to videos. Every time I swore, this is the last time. But it wasn't. I deleted everything 100 times. And 100 times I went back. At 17, I became a youth leader. People clapped. My parents were proud, but I was terrified. If they knew, was a constant voice in my head. I'd pray for people on Sunday and then spend hours battling with temptation on Monday. It wasn't just about watching. It became an obsession, a ritual. Stress, loneliness, anxiety. All of it fed the cycle. I thought, marriage will fix this. I thought, if I become a pastor, surely God will deliver me. But the day I was ordained as a pastor, I went home, closed the door, and opened the same sites I swore I would never open again. And after, I'd cry. I'd punch the wall. I'd pray until my throat hurt. And then, I'd do it again. Thought it didn't take long for the addiction to evolve. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was DMing women online, private chats, sharing photos, receiving photos. I justified it by saying, at least it's not physical. But deep down, I knew this was adultery of the mind, adultery of the soul. One preached purity, but my phone was a graveyard of broken promises. The craziest part, no one suspected. Not my wife, not my friends, not my congregation. I was charismatic. I was helpful. I prayed powerful prayers. People cried when I preached. And I knew how to fake the presence of God so well that sometimes I convinced even myself. But the guilt never left. The shame never stopped whispering, "You're a fraud." And every time I stood on the pulpit, I felt like the devil himself was sitting in the front row, smiling, because he knew. He knew what I had hidden. He knew that eventually it would all come crashing down. The double life escalated faster than I ever imagined. What started as occasional slips became a routine, an addiction so powerful that it dictated my emotions, my time, and my spiritual life. I would wake up, pray, prepare sermons, counsel couples, encourage young people about purity, and then, at night, I'd lock myself in my office, dim the lights, and dive headfirst into a world that I hated, but couldn't stay away from. It wasn't just watching anymore. It became an entire second existence. Burner accounts, secret apps, private browsing, folders with names only I understood. I learned how to delete traces, how to clear logs, how to appear clean, when inside I was anything but. Every time I told someone, "Guard your heart, brother," it felt like I was stabbing myself, because my heart was rotten. People said, "Pastor, your sermons changed my life," and I smiled. But inside, I whispered, "If you only knew who I really am." I avoided eye contact with my wife, stopped initiating intimacy, because how do you look in the eyes of someone who believes you're a man of God when you know you're anything but? She'd ask, "Is something wrong?" And I'd say, "Just stress. Ministry is heavy." And it was. But the real weight wasn't the church. It was the chains no one could see. I prayed more, fasted, tried to cast demons out of myself. I anointed my phone with oil. I smashed a laptop once, convinced that destroying it would destroy the sin. But a week later, I was back. A new laptop. A new excuse. Same demons. I started missing deadlines, canceling meetings. I became shorter with people, irritated. My sermons became more mechanical. I lost the tears I once had in prayer. Because how do you cry before God when you're hiding from Him? The worst part wasn't even the porn. It was the conversations. The dean is with women, married women, single women, women from other churches. I never touched them physically. But the conversations, the photos, the fantasies, they were just as real. And the dopamine hit I got from knowing someone desired me, from the thrill of the secrecy, was intoxicating, more addictive than anything else. I would finish counseling a couple about betrayal, then go home and betray my own wife, not with my body, but with my mind, my eyes, my fingers, my phone. And I hated myself for it. every single time. But the more I hated myself, the more I used the addiction to numb that hate. And the deeper I fell, I started avoiding mirrors, because looking at myself felt like looking at a corpse. The man I pretended to be and the man I really was were not the same, not even close. And I knew deep down that it was only a matter of time before the two worlds would collide, and everything would come crashing down. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember because it was supposed to be just another normal day. I left my office, kissed my wife goodbye, told her I was going to the church early to prepare for Sunday's sermon. But I left my tablet on the kitchen counter, open, unlocked, with a notification still on the screen. A message from one of the women. She saw it, opened it, and everything unraveled. Screenshots, conversations, browsing history, folders, files, secrets that I had hidden for years, all exposed in a matter of seconds. I walked back into the house. I had forgotten my keys, and there she was, sitting at the dining table, my tablet in front of her, her face pale, her hands trembling, but her eyes, oh God, her eyes, they were dead, hollow, as if something inside her had just died, and maybe it did. She looked at me. No yelling, no screaming, just a question that felt like a knife to the throat. Who are you? I tried to speak, to explain, to minimize. It's just stress. It's just pictures. It's not real. But she stood up, held the tablet with both hands, and threw it on the floor. It shattered, just like whatever was left of her trust, just like whatever was left of my integrity. She whispered, "You preach holiness. You stand on that altar every week. While living like this?" She walked past me, went into the bedroom, locked the door. I just sat there, on the cold tile floor, for hours, staring at the shattered pieces of the tablet, realizing it wasn't just glass on that floor. It was my ministry, my marriage, my reputation, my calling, all broken. And it didn't stop there. She didn't keep it quiet. That Sunday, the pastor called me into his office. His face didn't show anger. It showed disappointment. "Lucas, we've received some information. Your wife shared screenshots." I collapsed in the chair, couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. And then, the words that burned my soul. "You can't be on the pulpit anymore. Not like this, not until this is dealt with." I wanted to run, vanish, disappear from existence. I left the church that day, not as Pastor Lucas, not as the worship leader, but as the man everyone now whispered about, the man they prayed for, but also the man they judged. I couldn't walk down the street without imagining people looking at me, thinking, that's the one. The hypocrite, the fraud, the man who sang about holiness while drowning in filth. And the worst part? They weren't wrong. My wife didn't ask me to leave. She didn't have to. The silence inside that house was louder than any scream. I packed a suitcase, not because she told me, but because the weight of her eyes made it impossible to stay. I moved into a cheap motel on the edge of town. 4 walls, a bed, a mirror that I couldn't even look at. The same hands that once lifted in worship were now trembling in shame. I lost everything. The church suspended. Not a single message from the leadership beyond, "We're praying for you." The brothers and sisters I had walked with for years, silent, ghosts, as if I had died, as if I was contagious. My phone would buzz sometimes, but it wasn't support. It was whispers dressed as concern. "We're shocked. How could he?" I could feel it, in every glance, in every pause. I was no longer Lucas the worship leader. I was Lucas the hypocrite, Lucas the addict, Lucas the scandal. My wife stopped speaking to me. Meals were left at the door. My son, he asked why Daddy wasn't home. And that shattered me more than anything else. How do you explain to a child that the man he looked up to was just a mask? I tried to hold on to something, anything, but it felt like God himself had gone silent. I would open my Bible and the pages felt blank. I'd try to pray, but the words wouldn't come. Just noise, just guilt, just emptiness. People think consequences are just about losing your job, your title, your reputation. No, the real consequence is waking up in the middle of the night with your own breathing suffocating you. It's staring at the ceiling and wondering how the man who spoke about freedom became a slave. It's realizing that the songs you wrote, the sermons you preached, the hands you laid on people, none of it could save you from yourself. My wife filed for separation, not divorce, but separation. She needed time, space. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. She deserved better than the man I had become. And the church sent me a message. Take time, get help, heal. It sounded nice, but what it really meant was disappear. For a while, until the scandal fades. The worst part? They weren't wrong. I didn't deserve to stand there. Not until I faced the monster I had fed for years. And in that motel room, surrounded by my own shame, I realized something. This wasn't just about losing my ministry. This was about losing myself. Because somewhere along the way, Lucas the worship leader became Lucas the performer. And the real me got buried under the applause, the expectations. And the secret that devoured me that the first week in that motel felt like dying in slow motion. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, just sat there, scrolling through memories, photos, worship sets I had led, wondering if any of it had ever been real. But somewhere between the endless self-hatred and the unbearable silence, a different voice started to whisper. Not a loud voice, not even comforting, just honest. It's over. The mask is gone. Now, you get to choose. Will you die here, or will you fight? That's when I realized the fall wasn't the end, it was the mirror. The first real mirror I had looked into in years. I started therapy, not because I believed it would fix me, but because I had nothing else left. I walked into that counselor's office trembling, ashamed, barely able to look her in the eye. I thought she would judge me, but all she said was, "You're safe here. Let's start." And for the first time, I heard my own voice say it out loud. My name is Lucas, and I'm addicted to pornography. Saying it broke something, but it also unlocked something. A crack of light into a place I had never allowed anyone to see. I joined a men's group for sexual addiction recovery. The first session, I wanted to run. Hearing other men confess the same darkness I carried felt surreal, but also strangely comforting. I wasn't the only one. I wasn't a freak. I wasn't cursed. I was broken. And broken things can heal. The cravings didn't disappear. Shame didn't vanish overnight. Some nights the urge hit so hard that I physically shook. But now, I wasn't alone in the fight. And that made all the difference. My wife, she didn't rush back. And that's fair. She needed to see consistency, not promises. My son, he still asked about me. And every time he did, it fueled something deeper in me. Not just the desire to be clean, but to become a man he could be proud of, spiritually. It felt like learning to breathe again. For months, prayer was just sitting in silence, whispering, "God, are you still there?" And slowly, very slowly, I felt him whisper back, "I never left." I started writing again. Not songs for the church, songs for my healing, lyrics soaked in pain, in truth, in raw confessions that would never be sung on a stage, but maybe were the most honest worship I'd ever offered. Recovery wasn't linear. There were relapses, days I failed, days I hated myself again. But each time, I got back up, because now I understood something I never preached before. Freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of truth. And for the first time, I was living in truth. No stage. No lights, no applause. Just me. Just the broken, messy, fighting, healing version of me. And maybe that was the man God was waiting for all along. And now it's your turn. Because if you're still listening, I know something about you. You know exactly what it feels like to wear a mask. Maybe your mask isn't being a preacher. Maybe it's being the perfect husband, the perfect wife, the good son, the faithful daughter, the Christian everyone admires. But behind closed doors, you fight. You fight thoughts you're ashamed of. You fight habits you swore you would quit. You fight cravings that suffocate your soul. You raise your hands in worship and drop them at night in defeat. And you wonder, am I the only one? No, you're not. Look, I'm not here to preach to you. I've done enough of that. I'm here to tell you what no one told me soon enough. This will not fix itself. It won't go away because you pray harder. It won't stop because you cry in guilt. The addiction feeds on secrecy. It grows in silence. It owns you, as long as nobody knows. But the moment you speak, the moment you drag it into the light, it starts to lose power. Does it hurt? Yes. Does it feel like dying? Absolutely. But it's the death of the lie, not the death of you. Listen, I know the loop. I know the cycle. Wake up. Promise today is the day you'll change. Fail. Cry. Feel disgusting. Swear tomorrow will be different. And then, tomorrow looks exactly like yesterday. I lived that loop for almost 20 years. And you know what I wish someone had told me sooner? You don't have to fight this alone. You're not broken beyond repair. You're not disgusting beyond redemption. You are not your addiction. You are not your mistake. You are a person drowning who's been pretending to swim. But the pretending is killing you. You think confessing will destroy everything. Maybe. Maybe it destroys the image. Maybe it destroys the lie. Maybe it destroys what was never real to begin with. But on the other side of that fire is you. The real you. The free you. The one you were supposed to be. Look, I don't know you, but if you're here, still listening, I know one thing. You're tired. You are tired of being two people. Tired of waking up afraid someone will find out. Tired of negotiating with your own shame. So let me ask you, how much longer? How much more are you willing to lose before you choose freedom? I waited until I lost my marriage, my ministry, myself. Don't be me. Don't wait for the explosion. Start the fire yourself. Burn the mask. Burn the lie. Speak. Get help. Confess. You are not alone. Not anymore. If nobody else told you this before, let me be the first. You are not your worst moment. You are not your addiction. You are more. You were always more. And it's time to fight like it. This was my confession. My naked truth, my private hell ... spoken out loud, not out of sympathy, not out of pity, but because the silence almost killed me. I carried this weight for years. I preached about holiness, while drowning in lust behind closed doors. I stood before people ... talking to them about freedom ... while being a prisoner of my own mind. And if this story, my story ... sounds like yours, then hear me clearly. You are not alone. This channel ... this space ... is for people like me. People like you. People who know what it's like to smile in public ... and scream in silence. People who know what it's like to lead ... to serve ... to look like you have it all together ... while battling demons no one else can see, hear ... No one will judge you. No one will throw stones. This is not a church with perfect people. This is a hospital for the broken, a shelter for the exposed, a safe place for confessors. If you've ever lived a double life ... comment below. Share your experience. Tell us, how long have you been struggling? You don't have to give details. You don't have to tell your whole story. But when you write something ... anything, you break the silence. You punch shame in the face, and you say, I refuse to fight this alone. This is not just my confession. It's ours. It belongs to every worship leader ... every pastor, every Christian ... every human being who has ever felt like a fraud, who has ever looked in the mirror and thought, if they only knew, they would never love me again. But hear me out. I love you. This community loves you. God still loves you, not the fake version of you, the real you, a messy, struggling, exhausted, sinful, ashamed you. And He's not afraid of your darkness. He never was. So ... Take a deep breath. You've survived another day. And maybe ... just maybe, this is the day you start living your life. Thank you for listening to my confession. Leave your story here in the comments, and never forget that your story can help heal others. Keep watching the video that is appearing on your screen.